Hello, good morning. Good morning, everyone. You are here for the SummerWorks Career Sneak Peek Speaker Series with our featured speaker, Dale Fay with Michigan Medicine. So as you slowly trickle in, we're delighted to have you join us. My name is Michelle Galbraith. I work at Amy Cell Talent, and I will be facilitating today's session. Joining me today on behalf of SummerWorks is Jordan Fisher. Thanks so much for her support of this programming and for the support of the youth throughout the summer. And thank you to our audience for taking the time out of your day to explore various career paths, trajectories, and stories. Perhaps this will lead you to consider a career path you didn't consider before or solidify the path you are already interested in. With that, I would like to introduce our featured speaker, Dale Fay, Software Security Analyst Senior for Michigan Medicine. Dale is excited to share opportunities in using the internet and virtualization to develop valuable information technology and cybersecurity skills. Virtualization has revolutionized learning for information technology skills. Online capture the flag competitions are free and occur frequently. Both of these resources provide great opportunities for learning and career development. And with that, I'm super excited for Dale to kick us off and share his screen and start the presentation. Thanks, Dale.
Thank you, Michelle. I'm very excited to be working with SummerWorks. I'm passionate about getting young people started in careers, and this is a great program. So today I'm going to be talking about cyber careers. By cyber, I mean anything related to internet, networking, computers, and telecommunications. It's become an important part of our culture. There's a lot of great opportunities out there now. There's been a shortage for a number of years. The pandemic has made it worse. So there's a lot of opportunities for people to get into this field. So I have two different names. One is if you're not familiar with cyber careers, to introduce some of the possibilities to you. If you are interested at any point, that to show you some opportunities to advance your career, to get the experience you need to get that first job, and also to choose among all the different options that are out there. So a little bit about myself. Grew up on a dairy farm here in southern Michigan. Had no cell phones. How many, if you've heard of party lines and telephones before, type yes into the chat. When I was a youngster, we had a party line. We shared a phone line with a number of families. You could pick up the phone and someone else could be having a conversation, and then you'd have to wait for them to complete their call. There was always the option to say, I've got an emergency, and then they'd have to clear the line. And there was also severe penalties for falsifying an emergency to get used to the phone line. Very different. No cell phones. I didn't see a computer until I was about 20. The faculty at Lansing Community College had a computer about half the size of a refrigerator that they used for their research. It wasn't until sometime later at the University of Michigan I obtained to use Macintosh to write papers, got curious about how that worked, took a Pascal programming class at Washtenaw and loved it. And that's where my career took off from that point. I took a lot of computer science at Eastern Michigan and got my first internship in Ann Arbor at a research company, and did a lot there, a lot of programming, some system administration. So I've done a lot of different things over 30 years. Many people in IT have not had this kind of exposure to different things. So programming different languages, working with databases, storing data, querying it, building tables, schemas, system administration. If you take care of the systems like web servers, mail servers, manage users, devices, so forth. System administration is important in security. Spent a long time doing vulnerability management for the Department of Radiology at Michigan Medicine, handling thousands of vulnerabilities, prioritizing them, getting them resolved. And currently I'm a penetration tester. So I look for ways, also known as an ethical hacker. I look for ways to break into systems, mostly web applications, to exploit weaknesses in them so that we can get those weaknesses fixed before someone else exploits them. So penetration testing is very challenging, very interesting, a lot of learning. It's taking advantage of all the things I've done over the previous 30 years. So I've also been a college ed instructor teaching mostly Linux, also teaching Java, C++, and some security related stuff. Also taught introduction to networking. So as I said, when I started out, there was no internet. I used to save up questions for, a trip to the library a couple times a month. So we didn't have all this access to information, and it's really revolutionized the jobs, the career possibilities, get valuable information quickly. We also didn't have the cellular phones. And these two things are becoming more and more integrated. Now, a lot of people are accessing the internet over their phones, which several years ago was not easy or common. So why would you want to work in cyber? So first of all, there's excellent pay and benefits. There's a lot of opportunities. These jobs are considered predicted to grow faster than other professions on average. Possibilities for career advancement because there's so much demand. Variety, there's a lot of different things. I'll keep mentioning that you'll see a lot of opportunities to learn programming now, a lot of emphasis on learning to program, to learn at least one language. A lot of people working in IT don't do programming. So if you try programming and don't like it, there's lots of other things that you can do. So with all the different options, it makes it very possible to find your passion, to find something you enjoy doing. And in most of these areas, that means lifelong learning, that technology is changing. Opportunity to learn, to keep advancing your skills, learning new stuff. So I've found it very fulfilling. I think most people do find working in IT and cybersecurity very fulfilling. So, and you're considered a professional. So professional work conditions, great deal of respect. So be a very fulfilling career. So I mentioned this shortage, and it's gotten worse in the pandemic. So employers have always wanted, for any given job, they've always wanted education and experience. So in the professional areas, some education is always required. And it's rare that you'll see a job opening that doesn't require some experience. There are exceptions, some entry-level jobs. Because of the pandemic and the shortage, employers may have relaxed some of their expectations. That they may in the past, they may have wanted a 4-year degree. Now they may be willing to take someone with 3 years of college or 2 years of college. So there's an opportunity to get started that may have not existed several years ago. So some of the different opportunities that are out there, programmers, like I said, there's a lot of emphasis on learning the program now. If you try it and enjoy it, that's great. There's a lot of different languages, a lot of different types of programming. System administrators, you don't see as much emphasis on learning these skills, but it's critical. Someone has to maintain, create and maintain the systems for the programmers. Every time interact with a web page. There's a system administrator someplace that's maintaining that web server, securing it, keeping it up to date. There's database administration. Databases are a completely different animal. They're designed for transactions. They work very differently. A lot's required to keep the data available and to protect the integrity of it, confidentiality of it. Database administrators, the skilled database administrators are generally towards the top of the pay scales. Some high paying jobs, very demanding, but highly rewarding too. So network operators, it's an area that a lot of opportunities for people to get started in networking. I've helped run a couple network operations centers before. It's often a challenge to find people to work at night or midnight. And so usually entry-level jobs, and I've seen people learn a lot in those jobs and end up after a couple of years in a network engineering position. So great opportunities in network operations. I'll pause there and an example of a job posting for network operations.
Dale, is this a good time to launch the skills required for software security question?
So this is on Indeed. I looked for entry-level knock jobs. Here's a description of an analyst job at Clearwave Communications, temporarily remote. So there's an opportunity for someone to get their foot in the door during the pandemic, whereas in another year, that job may no longer be remote. It may require someone to report to the knock in person. So a lot of opportunities like this right now where things are remote temporarily, chance to get some experience. So this job has tuition reimbursement, a lot of benefits. They want an associate's degree, but they may be flexible. When they say things like equivalent combination of an education experience. So that's what we're talking about today. How do you get that equivalent combination, that experience that can help you get your foot in the door?
Excuse me, Dale? Dale, can you hear me?
So network engineering is more step up from network operators. They're usually working triaging stuff, sending it off to network engineers when required. Network engineers work with the switches and routers that make up the networks. They work with routing, access control lists. A lot of in-depth knowledge required, many years of learning. So a lot of people find it very rewarding. Web designers and developers, so I'm sure you're probably visiting websites every day. Someone had to design those, develop them. DevOps is a newer area. These are the people that take web applications and deploy them and allow developers to do constant integration, constant deployment so that new stuff gets pushed out. They keep the sites up, provide redundancy, provide availability. If you call the failure at healthcare.gov some years ago, they opened up the Affordable Care Act enrollment, and there was some problems with scaling. That was a DevOps problem, that they weren't prepared for the amount of traffic coming in. There's a lot more knowledge these days about how to best do that, load balancing and so forth, different techniques for availability. So, and cybersecurity, that encompasses all these areas. Each of these areas that I've described have a cybersecurity component. Programmers need to write secure code, avoid things like buffer overflows, injection, so forth. Inputs have to be sanitized to prevent any malicious inputs. System administrators lock down systems, manage accounts. Database administrators control access to the data. Network operators, network engineers concerned with network protections, protecting vital stuff from people that shouldn't have access to it. So, and the same with web designers, developers, DevOps. There's a security role in all those things. And within cybersecurity, there's a lot of different roles. Analysts, penetration testers like myself. So this government site has a lot of different roles and some example salaries. These salaries are well above entry level, but you get an idea. Web developers, associate's degree required, 77,000. It's pretty good pay for the associate's degree. Information security analyst requires 4-year degree, and you will see exceptions to that because of the shortage, and the pay is much higher. So that's like just an example of different roles and salaries. And this is not the entire view. This is an example. Like we don't mention DevOps. So
Dale? Dale, can you hear me? We have a question from the audience, Dale. I don't know if you can hear me.
you hear me, Michelle?
I can hear you. Can you hear me? We have a question from the audience.
No audio.
Hello? Can you hear me, Dale? It looks like we're having technical difficulties, and it sounds like you can't hear me. We can hear
Hear
Dale.
me now.
And we would love to answer your question. So I'm going to type it in the chat window. What college classes do you think are most beneficial for these jobs?
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Okay. Unfortunately, apparently my headphones timed out. Okay. Okay, question, what college classes do you think are most beneficial for these jobs? So most people should take a networking class. They want to understand how the network works. Maybe some programming jobs, not as important, but it's good to have networking. And so it's going to depend on what you want to do. If you want to go into web design, definitely HTML, the programming languages that are used in web pages. If you want to go into cybersecurity, it's good to take computer science classes like computer architecture, assembly language, understand basic computer science concepts. So yeah, so it depends on what depends on what you want to go into. So I'll say that teaching Linux at Jackson College, I hear a lot of students complain about general education. Those courses teach you how to communicate, how to solve problems. Don't forget those. They may not be as important in getting that first job, but somewhere down the line, when you want to advance, you're going to need those courses also. So cybersecurity, you can get a Security Plus certification. So a lot of different ways to go. It's good to know for system administration, you want to take operating system courses like Linux, Windows Server. If you can manage Windows Desktop, you want to know more about the Microsoft environment. So lots of opportunities. We still good?
Thank you, Dale.
All right. I'll keep an eye on the chat too, in case I lose audio again. So it's so much easier. I was lucky that I stumbled into programming. I loved it. It's so much easier to go to work when you enjoy what you're doing. So, if you haven't found your passion yet, try different things. So I'm gonna spend the rest of this talk talking about the kind of things that you can try out. So I watched a few talks yesterday, and a common theme was persistence, passion and persistence. Those are the keys to success. I was inspired by the National Spelling Bee champion. So I looked it up. I found this article about her. She spends about 7 hours a day practicing her spelling. She does thousands and thousands of words every day, 13,000 words a day. Usually takes about 7 hours. And on top of that, there's video out here too about her dribbling. She's an amazing dribbler. She's actually, apparently she's played with both. So practice. It's she's so passionate about it. I'm sure that it makes it easier for her to do all that hard work. So. My Mac has decided to slow down. The page seemed to have got hung up. So I'm going to spend the rest of the talk about how you can get some experience to help you get started. Because my current position, we look at a lot of people who usually have an open position about half the time. A lot of resumes, and there's ways that you can get your resume to stand out. So one of these is to capture the flags. So capture the flag are free online competitions. There's usually at least one going on any given week. There's often multiple CTFs happening at any given time. There's a scoreboard, leaderboard. People are trying to get to the top of that board. Sometimes there's prizes. Sometimes they're team efforts, and sometimes individuals. They require a wide range of skills and difficulty. So you can find entry-level CTFs with a number of different kinds of challenges. And a lot of these CTFs are available for some years after they end. So an example is PICO CTF. PICO CTF is run by Carnegie Mellon, a big cybersecurity school, software development school, software engineering. PICO CTF is a very high quality competition geared for high school students, and they keep their challenges up for some time after the competition ends. Here's an example of here's PICO CTF. This is actually called PICO Gym. I think this may be new. They've got links to some of the previous PICO CTFs. So the great thing about these challenges is that people, after the competition is over, people write up their solutions. And there's a lot of solutions out there, different quality, and you can learn a lot. You read that write up, and then you go in and enter the PICO CTF, the archived challenge, and you can try out the solution yourself. And so you see some of the areas: general skills, cryptography, forensics, reverse engineering. That's where you take malware and reverse it to understand what it's doing, how it works. Minor exploitation: take an existing program and exploit it, make it do something that wasn't supposed to. Web exploitation: that's a lot of what I test for. How do you exploit a web application or a website? Or cryptography. So there's all these different categories. So for forensics, here's an example I've listed in the resources. D for Diva. This young lady's been posting stuff for a couple of years. She really has done a great job. Just in the last couple of years, she's really improved on her presentation. She's got a lot of great resources. She talks about how she got started, things that you can do to get started. Even if digital forensics, so digital forensics, when a computer gets broken into or a network gets broken into, you go in and figure out what happened. She's got some great resources, and even if you're not going into digital forensics, you can make use of all the stuff that she's done. So here she's talking about a CTF where she got hooked on open source intelligence. Open source intelligence is a very important area where you're searching the web or other public sources for insights. You might be looking for default passwords, vulnerabilities that haven't been resolved, usernames, sometimes even passwords. People leak passwords. So a lot of great stuff. She's she is inspiration. So in the past, she's had some stuff about setting up a home lab. Here's a list of her certifications. She's really accomplished. She now has a master's in cybersecurity and information assurance. So there's someone to follow and learn from. Another one is SANS, one of my favorite. SANS no longer posts a leaderboard, but you can track your own score. So this is last year's SANS Holiday Hacking Challenge. It's a lot of fun. These are French doves. It's usually a Santa Claus themed competition. It's part CTF, part video game. You move an avatar around the virtual castle, look for hidden stuff, solve challenges. And there's really some good quality write-ups on this. So you can still sign up for this this challenge. Prizes are no longer given out, but you can find all these different write-ups. Some of them are really high quality. You can see how people solve the different challenges, and then you can sign into competition site and try them out yourself. So tremendous learning opportunity and no cost. They also run this when it runs late in the year. It's also a virtual conference, so you can attend YouTube talks on the subjects and learn from those YouTube talks. They talk about the different challenges. And SANS is really a leader in cybersecurity education. So a lot of the information is up to date, recent and relevant stuff. So great opportunities there. So as I mentioned, you can study those write-ups and practice the challenges. You can learn a lot. Another one is Hack the Box. Their own description is a massive hacking playground. You connect via a VPN. You download their VPN client. You connect to their hosted machines, and then you follow different challenges to break in the machines with different vulnerabilities. So a little more complicated than the basic CTFs, but still a lot of opportunities for learning that. Box. Somewhere there's a link here to get started. That's a starting point link. Place for beginners. So, and other things out there like Hack the Box. Some of the people I've worked with felt Hack the Box is one of the best. So another option, it takes a little more skill, might take more time to research and implement, is running virtual machines. If you have access to a computer with sufficient memory and CPU, the best way to figure that out is to just try it. You can install, get VirtualBox for free. You can also get VMware Player for free. Install Ubuntu server. You can try running it with a couple gigs of memory. If you've got a 4 gig memory in your machine, you may be able to run that with 2 gigs. It just depends on what else is running on your machine, but you can turn off to save memory. So once you have Ubuntu server, you can create your own web server or database server. There's lots of things you can do. You can learn Linux. You can also, if you're interested in information security, Kali is a Linux distribution that is very popular with the security world. A lot of tools for discovering vulnerabilities, exploiting them, so forth. And You can also use these vulnerable web applications out there like WebGoat, Dan Vulnerable Web App, OWASP Juice, and there may be others. These are intentionally vulnerable web applications that you can exploit using Kali or other systems. So lots of opportunities for learning there. So I think it helps to be a part of a community. I also believe in learning by immersion. Like if you want to learn a foreign language, I want to learn French, I'd go live in Montreal and get immersed in that culture. To hear the language constantly, to have to use it. So by becoming part of a community for cybersecurity, an example is the Wolverine Security, WolfSec CTF Club. You can join that and learn how to do CTFs, learn a lot about computer science and security, and immerse yourself in that community. And there's a lot of people willing to help out there. Looking for Discord. So this is the Discord for Wolverine Sec. So WolfSec CTF Club is a University of Michigan club, a lot of students, some staff. One of the leaders there is Sam Bao. He signs on here as Sam XML. He's a senior developer, very knowledgeable on development techniques. Also spent a lot of time doing CTFs. He's become an expert at CTFs. So if you join the WolfSec, opportunities there to learn. You can also get on ctftime.org, look for the Black Lives Matter team, always recruiting, opportunities to participate together on CTFs. You can find a CTF that matches your schedule, your skill level, work together to learn more. I was able to find a link for Black Hills information security Discord, but they do a lot of free training. They also run a Discord, the Discord server, a lot of participation, a good place to find mentors, get help. I talked previously about the SAMs, how they hack each other. So that's the end of my talk. Do you have any more questions?
Yeah, so please feel free to put your questions in the Q&A box or in the chat box for Dale to answer. He's here to support you. He's given so many great tips in terms of organizations to get involved in. And where I like the word that he used, playground, playground, an area where you can get the opportunity to test out the different write-ups and use that as your opportunity to be in a playground where you have access to great information and to test out your solutions. And I love, as Dale explained earlier, capture the flag. He had to explain that to me because I actually didn't know much about it. And so if you have questions around that, it's very cool, that process, Dale.
Yes,
I don't,
and it's a great opportunity to get started in a rewarding career. Um, it can make a difference when we're looking at resumes, uh, and we get someone that's maybe got a year of college or 2 years of college, and on top of that, they can talk about CTFs that they participated in, problems that they've solved. It really can make a difference. So, plus, it can be very enjoyable. I mean, writing your first program and watching it run, that can be thrilling. Solving a difficult CTF problem, that can be quite thrilling, rewarding. So,
definitely. So would you say as a young person, looking at this as an opportunity, somebody who loves solving challenges and solving problems would be, this would be fun for them?
oh yeah, definitely. They're quite addictive. So the CTF Club at Michigan is about 3 years old. It was started by a coworker, and I was surprised how quickly it took off. Um, it spread throughout staff and students. People joined up. Um, it was a lot of fun. Particularly when you solve a difficult problem, learn something, you got a new skill. It's very rewarding. So I spend much free time as I have, I spend on CTFs and similar challenges. I mentioned the Range Force Community Edition that should be listed in there. There's 26 challenges that are free on Range Force. It's kind of a CTF format. You can learn different skills. I spend a lot of time on Range Force, very rewarding. If you have access to an edu address, .edu, email address, and even .edu, you can get free access to the immersive labs, DCA, the Digital Cyber Academy. That's in the resources also. I've spent years learning stuff on immersive labs. There's a lot there.
And thanks, Dale, for sharing all those links. And I will as well share the additional links in the chat window shortly. We do have a question from the audience. What do you think are the most important programming languages to learn if one were to go into cybersecurity?
Good question. Yes, and again, that depends. If you want to do web applications, right now JavaScript is critical. I learn JavaScript. If you're going to go into engineering or scientific areas, cybersecurity, Python is critical. Python is used some on the web, but it's also used a lot in the scientific, in the cybersecurity areas. So Python is very is critical right now. If you wanted to program devices, so like medical devices or Internet of Things, you might want to learn C or C++, because those are still important languages. Java is used for some. Java is still widely used for some thick client applications, like the pen testing an application right now. We download a Java application that runs as your client and connects back to the server. So Java is important for those things. So, and your first programming language is important. The choice of what it is not so much as important as the fact that you learn as much about it as you can, and then you're ready. You're better prepared than for second language, or your third language, because they have the similarities and differences. So you learn 3 or 4 languages, then you start to see the patterns and understand, pick up new languages more quickly.
Great question. So I added into the chat window, cybersecurity, you want to get involved in understanding JavaScript and Python, and then programming medical devices, C and C++. And as Dale mentioned, the more you gain languages under your tool belt, the easier it becomes to understand other languages. Is that correct, Dale?
Yes, that's correct. C was widely used, still widely used because it's a fast language. It's very efficient, so it's good for programming hardware, any kind of Internet of Things or devices. So a lot of operating systems are written in C because it's an ideal language for operating the hardware. Very efficient. So, but it's also a very insecure language. So C is considered dangerous by many cybersecurity experts, but it can be used safely. You just have to understand the hazards and how to use C safely.
It's interesting how to use the programming language safely.
Yeah, so there's certain functions. What happens is that, particularly working with strings, there's certain functions in C that don't care about the size of the string. And what the attacker does is to exploit that. They overwrite the string, they overwrite memory using a huge string, and they're able to inject commands into the computer stack. So the computer's got a stack of instructions. As it has to do different tasks, it pushes things on a stack, and then it comes back to that stack to get the next instruction. A common exploit is to overwrite that stack and put your own instructions in it. So you tell the computer to go off and open a shell to meet at this place on the network. So it's this type of injection attack, buffer overflow, it's usually called. And so C has certain functions that are dangerous because they allow buffer overflows to take place, whereas Java doesn't give you the same power. Java limits your strings. You can't inject a string that's too big into Java in the same way that you can in C. So that's one difference.
Mm-hmm.
Once you understand what those dangerous functions are, you avoid using them, and then that makes the language much safer and less prone to buffer overflows.
Mm-hmm. So we have about we have about 10 minutes left. So please feel free to put some questions in the Q&A box. How many of you are even familiar with some programming language or have dabbled in it in the group? And feel free to do a +1 and then put in the language that you are familiar with. And maybe you're not familiar with it, and that's why you're here. So, and Dale, you've given so many great opportunities for folks to practice and play in different languages. So I actually want to make sure I include the additional links in the chat window as well. Some of them you would have seen throughout that Dale mentioned. I'm going to go ahead and put that in here in the chat window. And then there's some resources that Dale recommended in terms of books or videos or websites. And I'll put that in here. And then, oh, go ahead, Dale.
Is my contact information available?
Oh, yep, let me grab that too.
So it's important, reach out to me if you need help getting started. I'm glad to work with people. You can meet up on the WolfSec Discord. Also put you in touch with other people to help. So I was glad to get young people started in this area. So be sure to reach out.
Yes. So thanks, Dale, for sharing your information. Definitely a great resource. I loved how you talked about at the beginning, Dale, your experience. Computers were not something widely available. You used a telephone to communicate situations, and now we use the internet to do research. We used to have to use the Britannica or the encyclopedia to find out information, and but yet there's tons of information because of the internet, and that you're protecting data or systems. So I think that's really cool. I would love to hear a little bit about, and we have about 7 minutes, but I would love to hear about your day. Like you talked about your job is to go in and test a system to see if it's hackable, I guess. Is that correct?
Yes, yes. So usually at any given time, I'm working on a penetration test. And these are typically new systems. We have a whole process of evaluating risk. So typically there are new systems that are coming in, or sometimes older systems that are upgraded. Our risk management team does a lot of documentation and asks questions, and then they determine if a penetration test should be done on the system, which is usually yes. I focus on penetration testing. Other people on my team do code review. If there's custom code that's been written for a system, they look at that. If there are vulnerabilities in the code. So the penetration test, I usually use an automated tool. So I work a lot with the team, make sure we've got the scope of the test. We don't want to test something that's not in scope. We don't want to take the patient system offline or even slow down a patient care system. So we're very careful about setting up a test environment, making sure there's no patient data in there. We don't want to leak patient data. And then I use an automated tool like Burp Suite or AppSpider, Rapid7's AppSpider, and scan that site, look for vulnerabilities, and try some manual testing, try to exploit different things, injecting stuff into the site, or posting a malicious link on an application, things like that. So spend most of my time doing penetration tests. Usually have a couple meetings every day, a couple hours of meetings. I get to spend some of my time doing stuff like SummerWorks, which I enjoy a lot, trying to build a talent pipeline of diverse people coming into the field. I get some educational time within my range force. I also volunteer with the Michigan Cyber Civilian Corps, which are kind of like the firefighters for cyber in the state of Michigan. Spend a little bit of time on that. So we also have SANS classes for learning. So I spend some time on SANS class every week. So my days vary a lot depending on what we're working on. Currently researching a lot threat hunting, a new area. We try to look for the attackers before they become obvious. So I spend time researching that every day. So my time is spent working alone on this penetration test, but I do work some with the team. We talk about the tests. People may have suggestions. Particularly our team lead is got a doctor for me and you, knows a tremendous amount about cybersecurity, all the possible things you exploit in software. So some of these pen tests, discuss them, look at the priority of what tests. You have too many tests to perform, so you have to prioritize, decide what's more important. So that's,
Yes.
my days are a lot, but that's mostly it.
Mm-hmm. It's a lot of variety, but it allows you to work alone, but as well as work with others in teams to solve the problems and the challenges that are there. And I don't know if the audience understands how, working in Michigan medicine, how, the information that is collected, the data that's collected there, how private that is, right? So it is important to be able to test that on a daily basis and for the privacy piece of it, right?
Yeah, it's very important.
Mm-hmm.
We've had trouble with now all the laptops are encrypted. We had problems in the past with stolen laptops. We had patient data on them. Now they're encrypted to keep that. And we're always concerned about breaches. Breaches, it's big fines. It's bad for our reputation. It's bad for patients. Like if someone has HIV, that's private. That should be released to the public. So we're always looking for ways that breaches might occur and trying to stop those, prevent them, trying to put layers of defenses in place to keep things from happening.